What's shaking, guys? My name is Luke Dancy, and it is a Friday. We are here creeping into the weekend here with you, and we have a very special guest today to do that with me. That's right, I have Mr. Patrick Redford on. We'll be chatting about his brand new book. I'm going to pull it up on the screen for you so you can see it here in just a sec. This is something that a lot of people have been talking about, and rightfully so. This is the Redford Stack, also known as Temporarily Out of Order. This is his brand new book, all about memorized deck and stack work. One of the really cool points about this is, a lot of memorized deck work, there's a way to get into the stack from a new deck. Patrick's actually got a really sweet addition to this whole thing. I think it's a first where you're able to get into this stack from a shuffled deck. And it takes basically no time at all to do that. And he'll get into much more detail about that and everything else. I do want to welcome you all, though, to this very special live Q&A. It's great to have you guys with us, and I hope you're all having a wonderful Friday wherever you are out there in the world, all right? So if you are joining us, let me know where you are tuning in from, all right? But up first, I am going to jump to our guest today, and here he comes right about now. Patrick Redford, what is up, my friend?
Hey, what's shaking? Good to see you.
You beat me to it. You beat me to it. That's great. Thanks for joining me, man. Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. It's great to be here. It's exciting to talk about this project. It's been in the work forever. I'm so excited that this now is out in the world and folks are jamming with it and learning it. And some people are switching their stack, which is just mind-blowing to me. It's crazy.
That's really cool, man. When people start to see a lot of these new additions, and I'm not going to say too much, that's for you to do when it comes to some of these things, but I think the really funny part is I'm going to pull the image of the book back on the screen. A lot of people, unfortunately, have thought that when they go to buy this book, because of the cover, they think that it's actually out of stock. The truth is, that's just crazy. The name of the book. That's not actually the case, so this is actually available from your favorite dealer.
So if you see that image, that red on the book does not mean it's out of stock. It means it's waiting for you to grab it.
There you go. Right on.
Looks like that. There it is right there.
Beauty.
Actually, this is a gorgeous book, by the way. This is a rubberized, case-wrapped book, so it feels really good. It weighs 2 pounds. Oh, so if you're into books, the book just feels really good. Unlike the other release I did, which was Applesauce, this is on glossy pages, so the photographs look really good. You can see some of the pages inside here and all that. Just trying to cover up that secret link that I just passed. Let me get to one of the photo pages, but I'll have to do it this way rather than paging through so I don't. I know everybody's going to be trying to freeze frame that.
Zone in, yeah. Try to get in on that. Yeah.
How do we get in there? But there's tons of photographs. Everything is really well laid out. Just want to show you my favorite. You can see there's plenty of photographs there. It's really clear.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful. As usual, I mean, your products, when you release them, are always of a very high quality, which says a lot, because I know what's your name on this. It's your, it's got your seal of approval, so of course it's going to be a nice thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, this book was my baby. This is the most work I put into any of my books, which is saying a lot. Because the comic books that we did were also a very labor-intensive project. It's full pages. But this is my second hardcover that I put out now. Most of my books have been either soft cover or satin stitch, but I really thought this book deserved to be. That's why it's not a digital PDF. That's why it's not just one of those perfect binding soft cover books. Because I'm really proud of this work.
It's and also
really one of my favorite things I've done.
And the material inside is just as nice. It's just as well thought out as the actual book itself. It's this is something that a lot of people are interested in. This type of work, memorized deck / stack work.
Sure.
And you've been around this industry in a lot of different ways, and you have a lot of touches on things in different areas of magic, which makes you a very interesting performer / creator. You seem to dabble with a lot of different things. So I'd love to know, would you consider yourself, more of a mentalist than a magician? How do you sell yourself? And give a little background before we jump into your book so people can kind of learn more about who Patrick Redford really is, the man behind the man.
Funny that you asked that, because somebody literally just shot me a message over on Facebook or one of the social media platforms and asked if I consider myself a magician or a mentalist. And my answer is I'm a performer. I take whatever tools that I have at my disposal and use them to entertain my audience. So if that means I'm doing a magic trick or if I'm doing a mentalism trick, I'm going to use those tools. Now, that said, I mostly lean in mentalism in that work. However, if you've read this book, if you're one of the temporarily out of order users, you know there's a ton of just traditional magic tricks in there as well. A lot of them have a mental flair to them, but they are magic tricks. They're magic tricks with cards. If you have applesauce, you know that it's sort of a master of the deck type of card tricks that are in the covers of that book. Temporarily out of order is very similar in that because it looks and feels very real, but doesn't get itself stunk up with a lot of flashy sleight of hand. And there's a time and place for that. I love watching that. But for me, for my character and my style, I love playing with it. I love jamming with it. But when it comes to when I'm working, I'm not doing a lot of flourishy cardistry, color changing, easy stuff like that.
Got it.
That said, there is an additional part to this book that is now called Slightly Out of Order, spelled in the way you'd expect a magician to spell it. That does have mem stack tricks or stack work that involve more sleight of hand intensive things. This book was written for folks who aren't into all the hard hitting stuff. So there is a whole section on Pharaoh shuffle work. So that is, but the majority of the book doesn't focus on things that need Pharaoh. But for the Pharaoh guys, there's some really cool stuff in there as well. But to answer your question, sorry, I talk around all over issues and eventually, hopefully, circle around. If I don't, we'll get back in.
I got you.
That's just the way my brain works. I'm all over the place all the time. I'm a performer, in short. I mainly present myself as a mentalist, and when I do my stand-up shows, if I do a card trick in a stand-up show, it's my version of the tossed out deck, which is done with a normal pack of cards, which, by the way, is also in this book as well. So it's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, and when it comes to stack work in particular, I'm glad you kind of gave me some little bit of backstory there with the type of stuff that you do. Memorized deck work in particular seems to be a bit of a niche. You know, some people see,
Sure.
Some people jump right into it. Some people kind of they explore and then they kind of creep into it. As I've said before with other people, it seems like this big intimidating thing to a lot of people, and I'd love to break through that barrier with you today to talk about why that shouldn't scare you. That word, memorized deck or stack.
I'll tell you this: this is the best time to learn to memorize stack if there was ever a time to do so. There is so much memstack material out there now that when I started with memstack 20 plus years ago or 30 plus years ago, whenever I started. How old am I? I'm 34, so we'll say 25 plus years ago. I started young. But I learned the Aronson stack first. That's where I started, and I learned it through brute force, brute memory. And I took a day to do so. A dear friend of mine introduced me to the Aronson stack. We took a trip to Cedar Point. He quizzed me on the way there, quizzed me while we waited in lines for rides, and I knew it by the end of the day. Wow. I think that's the best and most fun way to learn a memorized stack. And that was without any little memory tricks, no mnemonics, I should say, but there was plenty of little tricks along the way that I used to associate cards with numbers. But I knew it by the end of the day. Since coming up with my stack, I've been using this. This has been in development for almost what feels to me like forever. Obviously not forever. I'm that old after all. But in the book, I think I say that I've been working on this variation of the stack for about 8 years. So this has been static in this, well, it was. I'll drop them on the ground. This was static in this order for about 8 years.
Oh, wow.
Great. So it's not changing. It's in a place I'm extremely happy with. And what's nice about this stack is it's incredibly easy to learn. Okay. I've taught 2 people who aren't into magic, who don't know mnemonics, have horrible memories, so they say. People who say they have horrible memories generally don't, but they just don't know that their memory can be good. I taught both those people my stack in one day, and they knew it really well. When I say they learned the stack, you can learn the stack in a much shorter period of time, but you don't know it. You don't have the recall for it. But you can learn a stack in a day and be competent with it, where if I say 23, the card at the 23rd number, and so on. And also, for folks who are just getting into this sort of thing, the nice thing about my stack is, you can perform a ton of things with it without knowing the stack. You can set up the stack without knowing the stack. And so when I started playing with this, smartphones weren't a thing. So part of the goals for me is I wanted to create a system that could be set, shuffled into, or out what card. Say that it's a mathematical stack, but there are certain elements and attributes to it that will allow you to figure out what comes next as a memory jog. Cool. That's not a mnemonic, but is a physical thing that will help you remember, which is pretty rad.
Cool. Wow. It's a lot of... So when it comes to memorized deck work, then basically what you're telling the guys is, to reiterate, look, if you've been worried about this stuff before, it's not that hard. And I think that's important to really hammer home because it seems like these days, man, people want more and more things that are just kind of like plug and play. I want to do it now. Don't want to put in the work. It's not to say that the type of stuff you're teaching here isn't going to be, it's not going to take some work, because it will. You're not saying this is just self-working card tricks, but, taking on... Yeah,
I will say this. Some of the stuff in the book are self-working card tricks, where you don't need to know the stack. You just need to know the sequence in how to perform those things. My dear friend John Carey, who is known for his wonderful self-working card tricks, we shoot material back and forth all the time. I said, "Hey, John, I've got some stuff with the Redford Stack that I'd love to send over your way." And he goes, "I'm not interested. I'm a self-working card trick kind of guy. The mem stack stuff, not really my thing." And I went, watch this clip. And I sent him the main effect temporarily out of order, which is part of the promo. You can go on the internet, see it. Most people who sell the book have that clip up. It's a 13-minute long effect. Now, it's not just one effect. It's a routine. It's a show. It really highlights everything that the stack can do. And I went, and by the way, everything you just saw, none of it's mem stack. It's all just features that are built in. It's all basic working. And he went, "Yeah, I'm interested." So don't let the word mem stack scare you off of picking this up, because there's a lot of stuff in there for folks who just have no desire. Mike Power is the gentleman who wrote the intro to the book. I love Mike's stuff. If you don't know Mike Powers, oh man, go get anything with his name on it. No. I feel like Mike is highly overlooked by a lot of people.
Agreed.
And his stuff is just amazing stuff. No. But he's not going to learn and rememorize a new mem stack, but he's using my stack, and he's using it to do a lot of cool things because he doesn't have to know the order to do them. Right. So he's really excited about it as well.
Nice. So Mike, he's one of those guys that when you sit down or you see him, you're lucky enough to see him at a convention, he will rock your world with some stuff that you go, where the hell has this guy been hiding?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the same with you. You've been making the rounds with the material from this book. Don't be so modest there. That you've been fooling the pants off people, and now you've actually provided some of the inside tips that you've been using, some of these secrets you've been using to fool people. And it's always fun to have those little nuggets in your back pocket when those late nights at a Magic convention in particular, when you're just ready to drop the hammer on people. And I'm sure you've done that a time or two with some of the stuff in this book. Am I right? I mean, come on.
Of course I have, and a bunch of stuff that hasn't been put out yet. Right. This isn't all of my thoughts on MemStack. Right. The person, by the way, who taught me the Aronson stack years ago has a copy of this book, and we were talking about it recently, and he goes, "Wait, you have more material?" I said, "I've got a couple books more material. Of course, this isn't everything, but I wanted this first book to really be a book that people could pick up, be really user-friendly, and use the material right away without having to worry about slights and stuff built into that, and all that's great. Mm-hmm. But to make it really accessible for anybody who wanted to get into MemStack work. And also, make it really interesting to folks who are already using stacks. And it's not all stack dependent. Of course, the book is introducing my stack again to the world.
Mhm.
There was a very, very brief little. I released let's see, I don't know what year it was, but I did previously release my stack order as a quick little pamphlet, just on how to get in and out of the stack very, very, very quickly, and just the stack order. I didn't provide any tricks for it back then, just because I was just trying to get it out there. And the reason this book happened is I was out in Vegas last November, about a year ago, and somebody said, "Hey, did you ever release any more of your stack stuff?" And I had forgotten that I even had released the little booklet. That's how quickly it kind of went out, and I forgot about it. And I went, "How do you know about my stack?" And he had some notes on him in his phone, and he went, "This is the secret. This is the secret code for unlocking your stack, right?" And I went, "Yeah, it is." He's like, "So when's the book coming out?" And I went, "If there's enough interest, I guess whenever I get around to writing it." So that's how it happened. And when I say secret unlock code, by the way, there is a 10-digit unlock code that will get you in and out of my stack, but it also helps you transform the stack into other stacks. So the really exciting thing about the Redford Stack is that its underlying engine is a Si-Stebbins Stack. Now, my stack is not cyclical like Si-Stebbins is. And if you don't know what cyclical means, I'm sure you do, but for the people watching this who might not know what cyclical means, a cyclical stack is where you can cut the stack, and it's a rosary. It loops around because there is a repeating pattern that doesn't matter where you start it. This is a true mem stack. It has a beginning and an end, but it can transform into a rosary stack or a cyclical stack very, very quickly in about 15 seconds using overhand run shuffles. Now, a question I get a lot is, why is Si-Stebbins an advantage to having that at your disposal in addition to a mem stack that looks random? And when I say random, see how I talk all around and I eventually come back to the point? When I say random, this deck really does look randomly shuffled. It has attributes like a regular shuffled deck would use. Let me just push this down a little bit. Do you see the cards from your perspective? I'm not sure exactly what you can see and you can't see.
Yeah, we can see them on that. Yeah.
There are like suits together. There are clumps of values that are together. There's 2 2s there. In the middle, you have a big, nice chunk of red. So you've got a couple more black cards. So it does look random. You could spread this out on the table, and there is no perceivable order to the cards. And yet there's a very specific, very, very specifically built order to these cards that allow me to do some cool things. So I can get into Stebbins. So I have every trick ever invented for Stebbins at my fingertips, available to me and ready to go. And if you're not a Stebbins guy, you're going, well, how cool is Stebbins really? There are a ton of really, really cool things you can do with Stebbins that you can't do with a mem stack because of its cyclical mathematical nature. One of my favorites is Chris Mayhew's Candy. If you don't know that, that is, to me, enough reason to have that at my disposal. If you don't know Marlowe's Pharaoh Shuffle, not Pharaoh Shuffle work, his stack work, that's a good reason to have Stebbins. I can deal the deck out in order at any time I want with just a 15-second run shuffle from my stack and deal 4 piles of cards and have it back in new deck order.
Jeez,
and the reason I can do that is because Stebbins is hiding in there, which allows that to happen. But I have all the advantages of the other stuff too. Now, my stack does look random. It looks like a nice distribution of colors and chunks of colors. But what's neat is if I need just a red-black stack, so when I say that, every other card goes red, black, red, black, red, black, red, black, which is really advantageous for, say, out-of-this-world effects. My friend Ben Blau has a great one that takes advantage of a stack like that. I can do that by moving 3 cards.
That's it.
That's it. I move 3 cards. I'm in an entire red, black order. Now, from what you saw, it doesn't seem like that would be possible. But because of the way the stack has been built, I can quickly get there and back again. So I'm not destroying my stack. I can go from one to another and so on. So my goal is, if I'm going to go to the trouble of memorizing a stack, I want to do as many things as it possibly can, because I want that to be a little loaded weapon. And a mem stack by itself, people will say, well, just shuffle a pack, memorize that order, and you're good to go. And that's true. You can do some cool stuff with that. But if I'm going to the trouble, I think Simon Aronson, figured this out before most of us ever figured this out. Build some cool stuff and build poker deals. Which, by the way, you can deal any poker hand called from my stack as well, of course. That's in there as well. Somebody just recently figured out how to deal any Texas Hold'em style hand from my stack. And that's up on the forum that's attached to the book. You can go read about that. All these ideas are now flooding forth now that it's more accessible to more people. Mm-hmm. People are tinkering with it and finding things that I didn't even know were in there. And that's also the nice thing about the underlying engine, because there's so much interesting patterns in that engine that are the core of it that have been mixed and toyed with and repositioned. It's ripe for finding even more stuff. Some of my favorite memstack work came from Michael Close in Workers number 5. And he found some really interesting things in Simon Aronson stack that Simon didn't know was there. And I wanted to move those into my stack. So I made sure all of those things were also in my stack. So from what I know about Tamara's stack, because of course everything about Tamara's stack isn't actually in his book, because he held some of it for himself, but everything I know about Tamara and learned about Tamara's stack, I've tried to build into my stack as well. Everything I know about Aronson's stack, I've tried to build into my stack as well, and then some. Plus all the things in addition that I wanted there. Everything I know about Si-Stebbins is in the stack as well. So that's the huge advantage of this for me, is this is anything I want it to be now.
That's sick. And it's
pretty cool.
The other reason I like to hear you talk about this kind of stuff, pulling from this and pulling from that and having some advantages of all these things, but you're also talking about the uses of it. And that's what's really exciting, guys, is you're hearing Patrick talk about these things, which makes it very obvious that he's actually a performer. He's actually out there using this stuff. It's created out of necessity and based on his needs as a performer, which I think.
And these aren't pipe dreams by any means.
Exactly. Yeah.
There is a multimedia element to the project, where inside the book, that link that I was trying to cover as I was flipping through pages earlier, there is a link that's password locked that you can go and you can view many of these things from the book performed, and some of them are actually explained and taught through. So if you're not a book guy or a book girl, and you are more a visual learner, and you go, well, I don't learn from books well. Figure out how to learn from books, because all the best stuff are locked inside these things that I'm surrounding myself with in this room. More and more stuff is coming out on video, absolutely true. But the advantage of learning from a book is that you put your own spin on it. You sometimes mislearn it, which is really cool, because when you mislearn a magic trick and it still works, you're now developing new stuff and you're coming up with new techniques that are working for you. The best advice I ever got when learning how to do a pharaoh shuffle or any kind of move is I went to a friend of mine and I went, I'm doing this pharaoh shuffle, but I'm doing it wrong. It's not like the book says it does. And he said to me, is it working? I said, yeah, but it's not. I'm not doing the technique right. He goes, well, if it works, then it's right. I went, oh. And the light bulbs just went off in my brain. And when I work with my students, I teach magic lessons here in Metro Detroit. I have a handful of students that I work with. Cool. A lot of times people say my hands are too small. I can't do this move. Mm-hmm. Now, I have child-sized hands. These are tiny, tiny hands. Child-sized. And I always say, hold your hand up. And they're even the smallest hands I've found still tower over mine. So if I can do it, they can do it. By the way, I also have arthritis in both my hands and 2 permanently sprained wrists. What? So if I can do this stuff, they can do this stuff. It's just, don't give up. Don't say I can't do this. You can. You just have to work on it and learn how to do it. And be dedicated to learning how to do it.
Well said.
The folks who say, books aren't for me. Well, then maybe you shouldn't be learning magic.
I like that. Yeah.
Because that means you're not really that dedicated. So that's the other weird thing. I mean, you're dedicated. Let me take that back. That's a little bit too strong. But the books will unlock an entire world for you that you wouldn't necessarily run into. Plus, you'll retain it a lot better and it'll stay with you longer.
Agree with that.
I'll get off my soapbox there.
No. I mean, there's a lot of good nuggets in there. I mean, you're dropping all sorts of good stuff in the last part there about the the books, I couldn't agree more with you when it comes to that, and just absorbing stuff in general, which I'm sure is one reason why people out there are wondering, well, why do I need to put this on a DVD? I think it's really wise to go book because, like you just said, people can absorb stuff better. You have the focus. Sure. And when you have stack work and this kind of stuff, you deserve to give this stuff the focus and the time that it deserves. So, I mean, come on. The hidden stuff's in the books. If you want the good stuff, you got to go books. There is a good question coming in from Facebook. And by the way, you guys watch it. If you have questions for Patrick about the stuff we're talking about with his book specifically, or maybe some other things about memorized deck work, or any of his past work, feel free to post your comments or post your questions in the comments section right now. And we can try to get to those questions for you. We do have one coming in right now over on Facebook I'd like to get to. This one comes from Michael Paul. He had a good question earlier about whether or not the stack was cyclical, and you said that it is not. So that was good. That was answered. No.
But it can be,
right?
Because I've got Stebbins accessible to me as well. So if you need it to be cyclical, by the way, you can go into Stebbins in chased order or Stebbins in that other order, which I can never remember. The weird European. It's in the book. I don't actually use this, but I figured out a way to do it because I knew people would want it. So. What is that other? Do you know the order I'm talking about?
I don't know. I always go chased myself, so I'm not sure what the other one is. Yeah.
It's that other possible. What is it? Duchess, I think. So it's diamonds, clubs, spades, diamonds, whatever Duchess stands for. Again, my I know a lot of stuff up there. That's not one that I've let stick. So you can do that as well.
You mentioned a name earlier, Ben Blau. He's actually tuning in now as well. It's pretty cool.
Oh, hey Ben.
So, yeah, see
What's
him over
up,
on
man?
Facebook. Yeah. Also,
Ben is great, by the way. Big quick shout out for his book Asymptotes. If you don't have it and you love hard stuff, oh man, is there some cool stuff locked in Asymptotes? So do check that out. Yeah.
Cool. Another friend. What's that?
I thought it should be on the shelf behind me somewhere.
You got quite a nice collection back there, by the way. Your bookshelf. I'm gonna throw to a single shot of you. You got a nice collection there. I'm sure that's just a part of it too. So
there's one or two thousand in this room.
Let's jump to a Facebook question.
Sure.
Let's see how specific you want to get with this. Michael Paul is asking a question. Can you please talk more about what parts of Aronson Stack that you borrowed? I know he doesn't mean it directly, borrowing it, but he says he uses the Aronson Stack. So of course he's a bit more curious about
I love the Aronson Stack, and I love Simon Aronson's work. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
If it wasn't for Aronson and Tamara's, this whole thing, I would have never gone forth into working on my own stack, or even playing with stack stuff at all. Just would never have happened. But one of the main features of the Aronson Stack is being able to deal any poker hand called for. Mm-hmm. Now, I am not. If you know my work, you wouldn't go, well, Patrick Redford, he's known for his poker deal demonstrations. I would pretty much guarantee nobody has said that ever, unless, of course, you're a friend of mine and you come over and we've played cards. Then maybe, because then we never play cards ever again. But the fact that you could deal any poker deal called for from the Aronson Stack was really appealing to me. And I knew that if I ever chose to share this stack, that would be something that would be of interest to other people. Mm-hmm. So I didn't just create this with me in mind. If I did that, I probably wouldn't have any poker deals in there at all. But there's some really cool stuff.
Cool.
So that's in there, absolutely.
Cool.
But there is a trick that Aronson has. Now, this is not, by the way, it's not explained in Temporarily Out of Order, but it is explained on the Facebook group that is attached to the book. Jim Turnpaugh just recently posted a few ideas, and we compiled them together and did a write-up that you can download. If you have the book, you can go to that and get access to it. But there's a Aronson trick that uses the undue influence control, where two people look at cards, they're placed back, and then you remove two cards from the pack, and those two cards are the wrong cards. But if you make them a two-digit number, say the number 24, count down to the 24th card, that's the first selection. But if you reverse it and count down to the 42nd card, that's the second selection. And that is built in there into the stack as a feature. So there's little things like that. I can't go over all of them. We would be here for hours. And again, not all the information is packed into this book because the book is already huge and heavy. And I can't... What's funny is somebody goes, well, why did you stop at this page count? And honestly, the reason was, this is the largest the book could be to still fit inside a priority mail envelope.
Right.
That is the reason. And a priority mail envelope and international shipping isn't cheap, but as soon as you go to a box, it gets more expensive.
Yeah.
And I had that in mind because this is a 2-pound book. This is a heavy book. So to send this, not priority mail, will actually cost more. So I wanted to keep cost and shipping down for the end user, and also for the folks carrying the book to get it out there, because I really want this book in people's hands.
Right on.
Did I answer that question, or did I talk around?
No, you totally did. You totally did. You did great with that. And Michael did want to point out that he did say he didn't mean borrow in a negative way, and I figured as much, no. Michael. But I wanted to at least say that.
Just one more quick note. Yep. One of my favorite Aronson stack tricks is something Michael Close put in Workers 5 called Tut Tut, and that involved the aces coming together to find a particular card.
Okay.
So in my book, I have something called Tut Tut Tut. Coincidence? I think not. It allows you to do a very, very similar style trick, although it is repeatable.
Oh, nice.
So you can do it with, there's actually a version where the 4 aces find 1 card, or you have 2 aces, 2 cards are selected, and the 2 aces come together to find 2 cards. And then you can repeat it instantly again with another set of 2 cards.
Oh, nice.
And it's ready to go. And this is one of the Pharaoh Shuffle tricks in the book. There's also something called King Me, which we were actually talking about just before we went live here, which is also based on a Michael Close discovery from the Aronson stack, where he used 2 jacks to Pharaoh and find a selection. I have that built in with 2 flat kings, but also expanded it so that you have the option of doing it with 1 person or with 3 people and 3 selections. So after the first card gets trapped, 1 more Pharaoh will actually bring 2 more cards into the mix and leave the original card staying put. So it's modular in that way. You don't have to use that feature, but if you have more people that you're performing for and you want to bring them into the fold, you have that instantly accessible, along with a poker deal that is in the perfect position at the end of that you can immediately go into and deal out a royal flush of spades, which is pretty neat. So that is all there as well. So there's nice. Tons of little things like that you can piece together and do one after another that are just really right for the different orders. I'm seeing Ben just posted a comment there that he's saying, well, by the way, you can get into this from a borrowed shuffled pack. And I don't know if we talked about that out loud or if that was our pre-discussion that we're talking about there. But that's another great feature of this, is that I can shuffle into this from any order, or rather I can arrange it from any order very discreetly. So I'm not, when I say arrange, there's a lot of techniques in getting into stacks and half stacks. Tamara's has some beautiful work on it, where you're just blatantly ordering the package you're eliminating cards. That is not the technique I'm talking about here. This is, you have a shuffled deck of cards, and through doing 2 magic tricks, 2 really good magic tricks, by the way. You can do a 10-card poker deal and maybe a clocking the deck style routine, where you don't just clock 1 missing card, you can tell somebody 3 missing cards that are free choices from the stack. And by going through once, you can tell them those 3 cards, which is pretty crazy. But through that process as well, you've also secretly set up the Redford Stack.
Nice.
So that's a lot of fun. And of course, there's other ways into that. There's a section with 3 tricks that are more mentalism style. If you're a fan of Barry Richardson and his quartet effect, where a deck is shuffled up by multiple people, and then you can start calling. You do a pseudo memory routine where you memorize these shuffled packs and you call who has what cards. There are some really cool versions of that trick in the book that secretly set up the stack. And because the stack's so easy to get into from new deck order, if you do any kind of memory stunt, you can start in my stack, have 3 people look at cards, they shuffle their packets, then they riffle them like a flip book towards you like this. And then you start naming the cards in order and pointing to each person who has the cards. Say, you have the ace of spades, you have the 2 of spades as well. You have no, you don't have, I have the 3 of spades, the packet I'm holding. And you go through that sequence, and when you come to the card in sequence that is the card they thought of, you go, oh, you know what, I don't know, I can't remember where that one is, I'll come back to that card. So at the end, you've named all the cards in order and who has them, but you've missed 3 cards for some reason. And you go, oh, you're each holding a card. By the way, what card do you think of? And it's the cards that they thought of.
That's sick.
And you're in new deck order, but you are a very quick shuffle away from getting back into a Redford stack again.
Nice.
So you can, I don't know what you would follow a demonstration like that.
Well said, yeah.
Do it. But there's also a version of that trick that doesn't start in any stack at all, that allows you to get into, of course, Redford stack using a very simple presentation.
Sweet.
So there's so much spit stuff in this book that part of me goes, wait, did I really publish all of this stuff?
Well,
no, I didn't. I kept some back for myself.
Speaking of that, there is a question Michael's asking over on Facebook. He says it sounds like it's a great book and he's looking forward to reading it, but he wants to know, is there a place to see a table of contents? Because I was checking the product page myself. I know that there's not like ad copy with a listing, but could you maybe give the guys out there, this might give us a chance to talk a little bit more.
I'll tell you what, we'll talk about the table of contents here, absolutely. But Perfect. If you go over to my Facebook page later today, I will post the table of contents.
That's awesome, man. Thanks.
For folks to see.
Cool.
Because that's an excellent suggestion. I'm not sure why I hadn't thought of that.
I mean, you had some great quotes. Let's not beat around the bush. You had some awesome quotes. I mean, you had Bob Cassidy at the top, God rest his soul. But you have some amazing quotes.
I'm very thankful for Bob saying nice things. And the book is dedicated to Bob and my other dear friend, Dan Huffman, who both passed away about a week away from each other. But
Jeez, terrible.
I miss them both a lot. Let's not dwell on that because that makes me very sad.
All right. Back to the table of contents. All right.
But man, Bob was amazing, and Dan was amazing. They were both great, really good supporters of me. Oh. Let's move on. Anyway, so table of contents. Here, I will put this up. So, I mean, it spans several pages here.
Sure.
But maybe the more fortuitous of you will screenshot the table of contents there. So there's one. Here's the next.
Ton of stuff.
I'm just doing this so that you can, you can see what's jam-packed into this book.
It's crazy.
There's tons of stuff in there. Also, something that I think should be in every magic book is this. This is the Trick and Effects Index. The table of contents gives you an outline of what's in the book. But the way I write is I have the effect, and then I have variations of that effect, which turn it sometimes into a completely different feeling effect to it from an audience standpoint, even though it might have the same methodology. So this Trick and Effect Index, this is every single trick and effect that's actually in the book by page number here in the back.
Wow.
Page, going through. So that's everything. That's really everything there. Plus, there's also an author's index. So anybody that I've referenced or credited or needed some brief history, that's back there as well.
That's cool.
I think every magic book should have that. And man, do I go crazy when I go, man, I know this technique is in this book somewhere. I can't remember what page it was in. And reading the table of contents doesn't help you.
Yeah.
Oh man. The folks who did that type of thing first that I became aware of was Stuart James and Print. Those stuff have an amazing index in those books. And I was like, man, I wish every magic book had this. So I tried really hard to make sure the stuff I've been putting out has that.
I also really respect you for the fact of putting in, the names of people, whether it's their work or whatever, that's kind of inspired you or contributed towards this, because, we all stand on the shoulders of giants, but unfortunately these days it seems like people are stepping on top of each other instead of actually lifting up the people that have helped them along the way. It's a weird dynamic these days,
Well, this goes back to my saying all the good stuff is hidden inside books, because people are either reinventing the wheel or coming up with things that they know might not be original. Who knows? I don't know what the truth of that is. But why not give a nod to the people who brought you to where you are? I mean, that doesn't make the material any less valid to say this person inspired this, or these techniques inspired this, or this was the original idea. I wasn't happy with that entirely for me because of these reasons. So here's where I started tinkering and changing, and that led to this new discovery over here. I think all that's really interesting. And the history of magic is really rich and interesting. And to sort of turn your head away from that, it just makes me sad. Very sad.
Yeah, well said. And again, for you guys just joining us live now, because some people, they join us and they have to go, and other people join us. We're joined today by Patrick Redford, talking all about his brand new book, temporarily out of order, which is all about memorized stack work. Is that like a new term? You've been using it a few times, and to me, I've not heard it before. Mem stack. Is that like a new thing, or is that a coin? Did you coin the phrase mem stack?
Oh, no. Mem stack, MEM for memorize. I'm just abbreviating mem stack. No, that's a standard thing folks talk about when working with memorized stack work.
Okay.
The only thing I coined is the Redford Stack. I don't know. Yes. I didn't coin it.
Robert Redford Stack, right?
Yes, Robert. Who the hell is Robert Redford? He's an actor, right? Actually, I love Robert Redford. It's great. Like, who the hell is Patrick Redford? Not a real guy either, as it turns out.
You know, it's interesting that if the people that are new to this, I think it's an interesting dynamic with you, and we don't have to stray too far from this because I don't want to detract from the book. But I do think it's an interesting dynamic that you're one of the few people I know that actually also have a stage name. So, and I like how you've separated the two because I mean it makes a lot of sense for what you do. But could you give the guys a little idea of your alter ego and what it is that he does and kind of the the dynamic there with that?
Well, here's the funny thing. I don't have a stage name. A lot of people think that I do. I live and breathe and live under the name George Tate. That is who I am. That's actually not who I was born as, but that is who I am. My name when I was born was Jim Tate, which is my dad's what my dad goes by. But they got me home and decided they didn't want two Jims in the house, so they changed it to George after my grandfather. Redford is the city I grew up in, and Patrick is my middle name. And actually, consequently, Jim is my dad's middle name. So we're just really a confused family in general. But if it gets confusing, I tend to tell people in lecture when I'm hanging around magicians, think of it this way. George is the guy who performs for you, and Patrick is the jerk that explains how it all works. So the reason Patrick exists, and Patrick doesn't perform, I've kind of messed that up a little bit because on video, I've just gotten used to people calling me Patrick when I'm around magicians, and that's fine. My friends call me George. If you're my friend, call me George. If you're not, call me Patrick, and I'll know right away who you are. No, either way, either one is good. But the reason Patrick exists is when I did my first magic talk, a good friend of mine, John Stirk, who's now in Chicago and helps run the Chicago Magic Lounge, invited me out to his magic club at his college years and years ago to just jam and do my first lecture, which it was really informal, but I gave away all the good stuff in that thing. And I wrote up some notes for it. I gave away my chair test. I gave away stuff that people keep emailing me today and like, where can we get this? And the answer is you can't because it's way out of print. But I thought, if this stuff gets popular and I ever decide to sell anything and put anything seriously in print, when somebody searches for me on the internet, do I want Google wasn't a thing yet, but do I want my website to come up or do I want magic shops' websites to come up?
Right.
And the answer was I want them to find me because they're looking to hire me. They're not looking to buy a magic trick. I also didn't want my show to look like it's for sale because it isn't.
Right.
So that's the only reason. It's for marketing. And what's funny is folks try to out me occasionally on the internet forums. They try to out George Tate as Patrick Redford. Vice versa.
That's
I'm going,
funny.
it was never a secret, guys. But that's interesting. And just to prove that it's not a secret, this is sort of a running gag as well. In the back of the book, there is a page. If I can find it real quick. I'll find it while talking. It's funny. I can memorize a deck of cards, but I couldn't tell you
what page number. What page number?
Right. Here we go. The answer is 256. Page 256. There's this spread with a warning message that says, all of this material was stolen from the repertoire of George Tate. Don't worry. It's okay. We're still the same person.
That's great.
And we look remarkably similar, don't we?
Remarkably, yes. Yes.
Except the only difference is these aren't even real.
Touche. That's funny.
Not even sure why I wear those.
Just
moving on.
To mess with the peeps. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Thanks for the perfect setup, by the way. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm here for.
It's like we planned it.
Oh, never.
So that's the backstory of how Patrick Redford came to be. And consequently, Patrick Redford is totally a better stage name than George Tate is. It just feels better as it comes out of your mouth.
Yeah, it just, it reminds me. What's that?
I should think about changing that.
I was thinking about, Gary Kurtz back in the day. And then when Gary shifted over to minimalism, he changed his name. So there's always an interesting story about why people have a alter ego or whatever. So
Sure.
cool. But yes, back to the book. Someone was asking me, there was a good question here. I wasn't sure what they meant by it. Maybe you can decipher it, or maybe they could repeat it again. Aaron says, I'm new to this, so what is it to know some sort of way to stack the cards? So basically, again, Aaron, if you're just joining us, Patrick's talked about that there's a way to stack this deck from a borrowed shuffled deck as well. You don't just have to use a new deck order. You don't have to use come out of that and then go into it. The other thing I wanted to mention too, Patrick, along the way is when we were talking before this, I was going to show a trick, and I'm not asking you to do it right now. That's not where I'm going with this. And you wanted, and I wanted to show that to kind of give the guys an idea what they could do with this. And you told me, you know what? Let's not do that because I don't want to give guys the wrong idea that they have to know how to do a pharaoh in order to do this stuff. So I think that's important to kind of touch on once again is some of the stacks require you to be very pharaoh intensive to get everything to work or to get the order in place. That's not the case at all with this. And I really want to,
and the flip side of that, if it's not pharaoh intensive, it's very table intensive where you have to deal because you're basically doing pharaohs and anti-pharaohs through dealing. That's also not the case with my stack. Of course, there's plenty of things to do dealing a deck of cards in my book. I'm not saying that you don't need a table for any of the material in the book. There certainly are things that require a table. But you don't need the pharaoh. If you are afraid of the pharaoh shuffle or you're not a good pharaoh shuffler, you think, I'll never be able to do that. Man, that leaves so much material that I just can't do. It's not true. Most of the stack transformations that I teach in the book don't involve a pharaoh at all. The way to get into new deck order, again, there are ways to do it with a pharaoh, and that's explained in the book. There are also ways to do it without a pharaoh shuffle as well, which are pretty cool, I think. And that was the main goal. Now, why is Stebbins the engine to my stack? And the reason is there are tons of people who've done so much work to get into Stebbins without pharaoh shuffles. A notable person who has done that is Brother John Hammond. And something that he uses to get into Stebbins. And I don't want to tip the name of that because I know folks who know about that technique are very protective over it. That said, it is explained in full in my book, as well as the Brother John Hammond book that Richard Kaufman put out. And he was kind enough to give me permission to reproduce that technique in my book. And without that permission, this book would have never happened. And he gave me that several years ago, and I just kind of sat on my hands going, I'll get around to the project eventually. I got that kick in the pants I talked about back in November to finally finish it. But it's a really cool technique that allows you to get in and out of Stebbins quickly from a shuffled pack. But there was never really a covert way to do that without just sort of doing the technique in front of an audience. And so I teach the technique, but I also teach a couple of different effects that allow you to do that in front of an audience without looking like you're just stacking a deck of cards in front of them. Consequently, it's just a great way to stack the deck when you're on your own without doing the magic trick, but doing the stack work to just getting out of it in just a minute and a half or so.
Cool. All right.
That's a big advantage.
There's also something else included in here that I want to make sure that we make mention of because it's one thing to include tricks. It's one thing to include how to get into the stack. But you've gone even further than that. Speaking of Stuart James, just kidding. You've gone even further than that, and you've included false shuffles, original false shuffles, and I think there's some false cuts in there too, right?
There are. I just want to mention real quick. I just got a couple Facebook messages from folks who said that the time is ticking, but there is no video feed for them. So, and I also got some comments here as well and also the YouTube says it's now offline. So I don't know what's happening on your end, but
I'll let you answer that question while I take a look and see what else is going on. All right, I'll be doing that while you talk about the false shuffles and cuts.
Perfect. So there's some really good false shuffles out there. Most notably, Derek DeGaudio's Truffle Shuffle, which is a great in the hands riffle shuffle. The other one that I really like that aren't in the book, these are just things that I like, is the one from Drawing Room Deceptions that Guy Hollingworth published. I love that shuffle. I use that all the time as well. But for the most part, I just want to do a casual overhand shuffle like so. And I think that's a really convincing way to shuffle a pack of cards without moving anything. This, by the way, the shuffle I just did, that is the false shuffle. That is the Dan Fishman false shuffle. I talked about that in Applesauce. I love it. But there's something new called the Red Fish Shuffle. And the Red Fish Shuffle allows you to do a false shuffle with the cards face up. And it appears to change the order of the cards, but in reality, it's moving one card from the top to the bottom. It can also be used to move a packet of cards. So you can move, if you need to shift 5 cards from the top to the bottom, it allows you to do that while looking like you're just shuffling the cards. So it's a really, really cool utility move that's great for other things, not just stack work. But if you need to move cards covertly, instead of doing a double undercut, you can do the shuffle. But it also works the other way. If you need to move cards from the bottom to the top, which a double undercut isn't always the best move for, because you have to shift the deck face up to do it, that the red fish shuffle will allow you to do that. And it's called the Red Fish Shuffle because of the combination of the Dan Fishman shuffle and some touches that I've thrown in, the Redford stuff, so it became the Red Fish Shuffle.
Sweet.
That's the only reason it's called that. There's also some great false cuts that are done on the table. There's no in the hand false cuts that I've put in this book.
Okay.
Just because it's a table oriented cut. There are, I think, 4 or 5 false in the book. I would have to go through.
I did check the feed, by the way, while you're doing that. I did check the feed, and we're looking good. We're looking good on my end.
Fantastic.
So.
We're back.
Yeah.
So there's something called the CDO cut, the PGR cut, my friend Ben Blau's OCD cut, which is OSED cut. That is in the book as well, and a few other things. Of course, the classic JOC triple false cut is explained in the book, but that's certainly nothing new, but really good sort of thing. There's 2 deck switches taught in the book, and if you've seen the main effect temporarily out of order, that first deck switch is highlighted in that routine. So if you were wondering how I had somebody shuffle up the cards and went into this crazy coincidence routine where they shuffle multiple times throughout, and they end up matching the entire order of the deck in halves, among other things, only to deal out the deck in 2 deck order at the end. That's how the deck was switched, but only switched once, by the way, even though they shuffle throughout the whole routine. That's pretty cool. I'm really, really proud of that deck switch. Now, the deck switch itself is based off of an old deck switch, but I've applied a really, really cool variation within that allow it to be extremely invisible, and also combine it with a new card force that requires no gimmicked cards of any way. So that will be of use. Somebody watched that clip and they went, "Oh, well, you're just using some sticky stuff." No, the card that is found in the other deck really is just a single card, and vice versa. And it's just a really cool, sneaky technique that's extremely easy to do. You'll be doing it right.
Sweet.
Yeah, some cool stuff.
Cool. I love it. Yeah, it's and also I want to give a hello to someone you may know as well, Ron Pink. He's watching over on our Facebook page.
Hey, Ran.
Yeah, he says.
Oh, Ran is fantastic too. I love his work. He's got one of a very devious mind for creating some cool magic.
Yeah, and he's just a hell of a nice guy too. He's a really good guy.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't tell him that. That'll go to his head.
All right. Well. All right.
No,
Too late.
No, he's
too late.
He's the sweetest. He's the absolute sweetest.
So I did want to say hello to Ron. Also, I see my buddy Van McGee's out there, and John Zor. John Zor is watching as well over there. And if you guys have more questions specifically about Patrick Redford's brand new book, this is your chance to have them answered right now. I know that we've been doing a lot of chit-chatting, so there's been a lot to absorb and listen to, and I get that. This is some really good stuff today, and Patrick obviously has a lot to say about it because he spent a long time working on this and compiling all this, so there's a lot of good info here. But if there's some specific things you want to know about this, please post your questions now, and we'll do our best to have them answered while we still have Patrick live for a few more minutes here. So here's a question actually from YouTube. Chris Smiros wants to know, do you have any new touches on your ARC?
My ARC. There's an acronym that's just not coming to my mind. What is ARC? Maybe he can clarify what he's asking about.
And when I say ARC, I mean your version of ARC, forgetting card.
Oh, got it.
I don't know.
I thought there. Not in this book, but yes, okay. There's plenty of stuff. So he's referring to, oddly, maybe that's why, because it was back here. It's something called the Forgotten Ploy.
Got it.
or the ambitious card routine is what ARC is. But
Got it.
I would call that ACR.
Yes.
So it's all coming together now. The answer is yes. I have additional touches and additional work.
Okay.
And there's only so much time to work on making that stuff available to other people.
Cool. Min is asking.
Someday, I hope to do more stuff. There's an additional sequel to Glemm that may or may not come out, or it might just wait for the big book later in life. I mean, there's so much material I'm sitting on that I don't share just because it takes a lot of time to put the stuff together.
Sure.
And I perform.
I get it, man. Do you mind holding up the second book? Min Lee over on YouTube want to know what's the name of that book again?
Oh, this book.
Yeah.
This is called Glemm, and I believe it's still available. Most dealers should be able to still get this. It's not out of print by any means. It's a short little perfect bound book with some cool stuff in it.
Okay.
Other book that I'd love to give a shout out to, which is also still available at dealers worldwide, and they certainly can get it through Murphy's, is called Small World. So if you like card stuff, Small World was my treatise on the out of this world effect, using a small packet of cards that ends with a full deck. But it's not just that trick. There's other tricks in there as well that use the same methods to accomplish other things. And that's another thing that I really, really love. And there's demo videos out for that. You can go check those out on the internet, wherever you like to watch those sort of things.
All right. What was the other one? That was a question here. This is a nice comment. Our friends over at Moravian's Magic Shop says books like this should be an automatic addition to the library of any real magician. This book proves. There's more.
I'm sorry.
This book proves that our art is not only alive but still evolving. Thanks for the hard work on this one, Patrick. So.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's what shop was that?
I believe they're called Moravians. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Where are you guys based out of?
I am now big fans of them.
Yeah.
So thank you. Cheers to you.
Yeah, I'm jealous. You have. Oh, that's just water. Never mind.
Just water. Giant glass of. It's just water.
Orlando wants to know: do you or Ben have any new work on Prevaricator? How do you pronounce that? Prevaricator?
It's exactly like that. It's called Prevaricator. The answer is yes. Of course we do. Whether or not it ever comes out, that's a whole other story.
Oh, come on. Come on.
A lot of the work on Prevaricator has come out in private workshops. There is a workshop booklet for people who attend those things.
That's fair.
That said, I don't know when the next workshop will be or when it will be. Sometimes Ben joins me and we do those workshops together. But it's been a labor of love for both of us and something that we're both really passionate about. And there's some really cool stuff you can do with the Prevaricator techniques. It's not just one technique; it's a toolbox of things. It's highly. We could spend hours just talking about Prevaricator and nothing else.
All right.
The answer is yes. There's plenty more to share in that regard.
Okay.
When and how, that's a whole other story.
Fair enough. I got the pronunciation now. It is Merovingians from Kansas. So it's Merovingians Magic Shop over there in Kansas. So sorry, guys. Didn't mean to butcher
Next time I'm in Kansas, I'm going to have to stop in.
Yeah.
I look forward to it.
Yeah, they've been popping up here a little bit on some of these shows. It's nice to see some of the magic shops tuning in too. So very cool.
Yeah, the brick and mortar magic shop is a vanishing breed, and so anytime that there's a chance to go and support your local shop, do so. Right here in Detroit, we've got a great shop called the Wonderground Magic Shop. They've been around for 46 years.
Oh wow!
And they're still kicking it and doing a great job. And man, it's everything you want a magic shop to be when you walk in. They've got books. They've got the crazy wooden props that you would never know what to do with, and all the new stuff too. So if you are in the Detroit area, and man, give a shout out to my city here, go check out Wonderground. They're great.
I'm glad you brought that up because I know when we were first chatting earlier, you said you wanted to make sure that you gave a mention to them. So I'm glad that came up.
Yeah, the owner, Paul Nielsen, has been really supportive of my work and everything that I've been doing. And they're just a wonderful, wonderful shop. They've been there for me since the beginning. Denny Haney is another guy that's been there since the beginning. Ron Joe's out on Long Island have been really supportive over the years. H&R Magic Books has been supportive over the years. There's just so many real shops that just, they're great people and they really care about the art. They really care about magic. And I'm so thankful that some of those places still exist, because we're losing a lot of that, where you can walk in and see the stuff and talk to somebody who's knowledgeable behind the counter that's not going to go, to buy this. Yeah, it's cool. They'll say, you don't want that. Trust me.
No, you're right. Yeah.
You want this instead. Or they'll say, I know you're into this the stack work stuff. You might want to check out Patrick Redford's new book. And things like that. They steer you in the right direction.
Oh, totally do. And that's, it's another reason I want to thank you. We're not wrapping up just yet. We will in just a couple more minutes. But it's another reason I want to thank you for sharing your time on here, because unfortunately those shops are becoming less and less of a more, of a common thing, which is very unfortunate. But that's why we like to try to do these kind of things for people too, because this is kind of like your chance to walk through the door and to ask you questions right now and to find out the details and to get that help, and that's one reason we really, really enjoy connecting with people like this, because the only interaction you have with an online shop really is just buy it now button, and that's about all you get. So, we're doing our best to help the community, connect people, and to get the answers, and the help. So, and thank you for being a part of that as well, Patrick.
Hey, I appreciate this opportunity to reach out to folks who are fans and hopefully future fans, and also to reach across the table who aren't fans.
Pull them over to the Redford side.
Yeah, pull them back to Redford. Right. Absolutely.
Love it.
Now, I'm really accessible, so if somebody does have a question and you just didn't think to ask it here, you can reach out to me on the social media platforms. I do try to write everybody back who writes me. Sometimes that takes some time.
Cool.
But you can contact me through. I don't pay much attention to Twitter, to be honest. So if you tweet at me, you're just throwing something into dead space, most likely. Right. I don't Twitter as much as I should.
Okay.
I'm still learning this social media thing, but Facebook is a great avenue. You can go to my fan page or the Patrick Redford page, although I think that's nearing the maximum of friends there. But either way, I do try to keep a good hot button on that. If you are part of the Temporarily Out of Order Facebook group, which you can only be part of if you have the book, I'm sorry.
Right.
That's just the way it is. But I'm very active on there.
Cool.
Also kind of curating different ideas that people are throwing out, and I will respond there very, very quickly. Or at least I'm trying to.
All right.
So if you have questions, throw them at me. It's all good.
Here's one good question. This one comes in over on YouTube. We'll bring you guys. Hello, YouTube. Orlando wants to know, do you still have Aronson Stack memorized, or have you switched completely away from that?
I use my stack almost exclusively. Okay. I do know Aronson Stack. In fact, if you know Aronson Stack, you know one card of the Redford Stack. You know the 13th card. I kind of kept that just for my own personal reasons as a shout out to my own memory log back there. But it is the 13th card in the Aronson Stack, 2 of diamonds, and in the Redford Stack console. And there's a couple crossover cards from Tamara's to my stack as well, which is kind of interesting.
Cool.
Those were more coincidences than on purpose. But something I did for a long time with the Aronson Stack is because the Aronson Stack ends on the 9 of diamonds. You'll notice mine ends on the 9 of clubs. What I would do is I would swap the 9 of clubs and the 9 of diamonds on the bottom of my stack, because the 9 of diamonds is also the 10 on card in the Tamara's stack. And I didn't want to be in that club of, I've got a mem stack, guys. Look, I've got a mem stack. Because as soon as anybody who knew mem stack saw 9 of diamonds, they knew you were part of the club. I didn't necessarily want people to know I was part of the club, so I would just swap my bottom card out. And I got so used to that being my 52nd card, because it didn't really upset any of the built-in stuff in Aronson to have those 2 9s swapped, because they were both 9s. I wanted to keep that in my stack. So it's funny, Tamara's, Aronson, and my stack all end on 9s.
Cool. A little nod to the greats. All right.
Little nod to them, absolutely, which is pretty cool.
Any other thoughts or things I might have missed along the way? I know we talked about the fact you get into this from a shuffled deck. You're able to do that very quickly and easily. Also that you're able to do this not just with Pharaoh, where you can do overhand shuffle, to help you facilitate all that, which is amazing as well. Talked about, what? Can we talk about maybe some of the routines? You don't have to get specific, but are people going to be looking at? I'm just throwing out things here. Are people going to be looking at, okay, is this just a bunch of poker deals? Is it just,
No.
Can you give, what type of variety can people expect when they look through here and see the tricks that you can do with the stack, I guess? Yeah.
And fantastic point. So my favorite kind of magic it is not poker deals. I think they're fascinating for the right audience, but if your audience doesn't know poker, oh man, are they snoring?
Yeah.
You know, or maybe they're not. I don't know. I'm not the guy who does a bunch of poker deals, so I can't speak to how to make my audience fall in love with them who don't know the game. But if you have the secret, message me. I want to know the secret because I think they're fascinating. But if you don't know poker, you go, oh, okay, that's a winning hand, I guess. That's supposed to be good, right? So most of my poker demonstrations, if I do them, end with the flashy Hollywood style ending of the royal flush and spades because everybody knows that's good. You don't have to teach them the rules to book. So that's a very small section of the book. I love things with a mentalism flair to them. So I love thinking card tricks. I love impossible card locations. Ben Blau and I have this running joke about his work that a lot of times it's a trick that boils down to, I know your freaking card. You don't know how I know, but I know your card. And I love routines like that. So you'll find stuff like that. And well, one of my favorites from the book is something called Twain, which involves two people. The deck is shuffled up. Most tricks in the book, by the way, return to stack at the end of it, even though it appears to be completely mixed at the end.
Cool.
One person, they both cut and complete. They both mix their piles a bit. They trade top cards. One person looks at their card, cuts it into the middle. The other person doesn't look at their card, but takes it under the table, turns it face up, and cuts it into the middle, and then puts it in the box. So you never see anything about the other half. You go to the first person, you read their mind, you tell them the card they isolated, you remove it, you put it down on the table, you say, well, that's just a mind reading trick. Anybody can do that. And they go, oh, yeah, sure, anybody can do that. I said, but the other card, you don't even know it, so there's no way I could possibly know. What if I could tell you that card? They go, that'd be pretty good. I said, not good enough. Remember, you cut it into the pack between any two cards you wanted. What if I could tell you those cards as well? They go, wow, that'd be cool. I said, not good enough. What if I could tell you the exact location of those cards? So you tell them the card that they've turned over, the two cards surrounding the card, and the exact numerical position from the top that card exists without ever touching anything.
Oh, wow.
Your back can be turned the whole time, which is pretty wild. That's my second favorite trick in the entire book. My first one being Viality, which is just a very, very simple trick. Both of those, by the way, are on YouTube. You can check them out in performance mode on the Patrick Redford YouTube page.
Okay.
I've been trying to trickle out different performances from the book as the weeks go on. Trying to do one a week. We have sort of a backlog that's been going out. So those are some of my favorites. So if you do want to see some of this stuff, it's weird. I can't really do much this way because you're not actually here. And for me to handle the deck for you instantly becomes suspect. But there is one thing I can show you if you would like to see it.
Yeah, that'd be great, man. Thanks. Sure.
Because somebody shot me a message, less talking about the book, more showing the stuff from the book.
All right.
So I'm going to do something that's a compromise between the two. I'm going to show you something that's not in the book, but if you have the book, you have access to how it's done because it's an Easter egg that is not directly explained, but is fully explained. And if you have the book, you can figure out how to do that. I'm being purposely vague.
Sweet.
But Luke, I'm going to use you for this, of course, because you're the guy here. If I were to ask you to just name any card of the pack, maybe you'd be influenced or guided towards certain things. So instead, I'm going to take the deck off camera for a moment. I'm going to reverse one card. I'm going to put it right face up in the middle, right here next to the red queen.
Okay.
I've done this. And that was off camera. You couldn't see it, I hope.
Nope, didn't see it.
Perfect. You're going to tell me what that card is, but we're going to do it in parts. So when I snap my fingers, you will either say red or black. Whatever you say, that's what we go for. That's what we use. I don't want you to think about it too much. Whatever comes to mind first. Go.
Black.
Black. That's good. Now, it's either a spade or a club. When I snap my fingers, you say spade or
club.
Perfect. This last one, you're going to say a value, but I don't want you to just say whatever value comes to mind first, because now you're sort of in that rhythm, you're relaxed, your brain is now just going through the motion. So instead, whatever comes to mind first, throw it away, go with the second thought, the second value.
Okay.
And you're at club, a black club so far, so we need a value. Go.
6.
6. 6 of clubs.
Mm-hmm.
That was a free choice, yes.
Yes.
Now, I did tell you before we started that I took one card that I literally sat here and I spread through the cards like this. And I took one card out of the center of the pack and I turned it face up. I snuck it right in. I said that it was right next to a red queen. Yes?
Yep.
Now, if you were here, I would let you spread through these cards. yourself, but you're not. So you're just going to have to trust me. But it is right in the center between the Queen of Diamonds and the King of Diamonds. I want you to see this. And look through. As you're looking through, you will not see, hopefully, a Six of Clubs. Right there is one card exactly where I said, right next to that red queen, right next to the red king. There's only one turned over. And again, if you were here, you would be spreading this yourself. But you said the Six of Clubs.
Yeah. Patrick Redford. What?
Which is really... So
cool.
that is taught. That is something you get when you buy the book. You have access to. But kind of have to find the Easter egg.
All right. Any hints with that? Any if you're going to throw out the bait, any hints on how to access that or get it?
Absolutely. So throughout the book, there is a little tab at the bottom of many effects that say, watch this trick in action. And there's a link and there's a password, because it's a password protected link. And if you go to that link, you will find this also taught on that page.
Okay. All right. Very good.
Along with tons of other stuff.
Cool.
You'll also get access to the Facebook group through that link.
Cool.
And some other ideas that people have thrown out. For example, Pitt Hartling has a great book on MEMS deck work called In Order to Amaze. He has something called the poker formulas, which can be applied to any stack. So the particular formulas for the Redford stack are also up in that location, among many other things. So it really is a toolbox of ideas that you get access to with the book. You also get access to a partial PDF copy of the book. Now, I did say early on that is not available in PDF, and that's true.
Right.
But what is available in PDF is the stack order, the stack transformations, and how to get in and out of stack. None of the tricks are available in PDF, but the tools for learning it, so if you want to have that on your phone and carry it with you, you do have access to that digitally, so you're not a slave to just purely the book. That was my compromise between those two books, so I wanted to offer that to folks as well.
That's fair. All right. Here's a question coming in from Facebook. I don't know if this is serious or not, because I don't know that I've ever heard of a 30-card poker deal.
It is.
Okay.
That is one of my things. Yeah, no, that is a very serious thing.
So here's the question.
One of the ways,
here's the question first, though, because he wanted to ask something specific about it, and I'll let you jump into your story. Daniel wanted to know, 30-card poker deal revisited. Saw it on YouTube, but not on the table of contents. Did I miss it? So basically, he wants to know if it's in the book, I guess.
So there, I discuss the 10-card poker. 10-card poker deal is what we're really talking about. 30-card poker is just 3 sets of 10 cards. That's what I called it.
Okay.
The first version I published was in a book called Square. In this, unfortunately, this is out of print now. You can't get it. I'm sorry. But you would want it. There's better things. I've revisited sets since 30-card poker deal revisited. What I do discuss in the book is a very basic way to use the 10-card poker deal as a method to get into stacks secretly. While you're openly removing different sets of cards, you are actually secretly and partially stacking a stack.
Yeah.
That said, my 30-card poker deal revisited is not in temporarily out of order.
Okay.
It is available as a separate release called Improbity. And that's where you will find that, along with some other things, because there is a gimmick involved that I sort of introduced. So you can do many different things with that, but I don't want to dwell on that too much, because we're here to talk about temp out of order. But Improbity is the publication that you want to check out, and a simple Google search, you'll find it.
Okay. Let's jump over here. Got a couple nice thoughts and a question over on YouTube. Hello, YouTube friends. Alex is saying, loved your book, Applesauce. Can't wait to pick this one up.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, very cool. And then Orlando's has some good questions. He has another one. This is a good question about your other work, another one of your works, I should say. He wants to know, any plans on re-releasing the comic book series as a compilation? That's a good question.
Yes, the answer is yes. When? That's another story as well. So there are 2 more comic books that we didn't release.
Okay.
So there's even more material that the world doesn't. And if you don't know the comic book series, it is. Let me just grab this one that I threw. There were 5 in the series that are available. There's a storyline throughout them. And the guy who did the artwork on this, his name's Jesse Rubenfeld. He did an amazing job. But they are comic books. And each one had a different theme, but everything in them was completely impromptu. You could do a drop of the hat, just gather a few items, maybe a pen, a piece of paper, or a coin, or so all impromptu mentalism. This was my favorite one aesthetically, just because of the old Wild Wild West There's also in-jokes throughout the text, and magicians, famous magicians that you'd probably be familiar. Max Maven, King, Banachek is in there. Carol Fox is in the background.
It's comic book characters.
Yeah, but it's really strong, really great material, and all
cool.
stuff that I make a living doing.
Cool.
And I'm working with a new artist because Jesse has now become a big comic book artist in the real world, not the magic world.
Got it.
He also, by the way, did Rune Clown's book. So if you have Rune's book, Jesse did the artwork in there as well.
Oh, cool.
But I'm working with a new artist to finish up the other two because they're written. The artwork's mostly done, but compiling them, the issue is these are full color, full bleed pages. And the book is massive. It's over 300 pages long.
God.
It's massive. And I want that to be a hardcover, which means it's heavy and it's big. And it's not at the top of my work pile because it's heavy, it's big, it'll be an expensive book when it comes out, and it's going to cost me a lot to produce. So, yes, I desperately want it to come out.
Okay.
When, who knows? Hopefully someday. Someday it'll come out.
There is definitely no shortage of things keeping you busy. That's for sure.
No, there's certainly not.
And you touched on something that I would love to touch on as well, to really back up all this stuff that we're talking about again. Patrick is a full-time performer as well. He's out there, and that's the thing. There's a difference in the magic world, right? There's people that, and I'm not downplaying these people, and I'm not trying to say anything bad about them, but keep this in mind, guys. There are people that out there that just create magic that they really never even perform. They come up with an idea, they put it out. It's just an idea. They might make a little bit of money. That's it. Then you have people like Patrick, and I've had other people come on as well that are actually out there performing and doing this stuff, and you get the advantage of having this refined work that's been tested in the trenches, as we call it. The guys that are out there working and doing stuff in the trenches. And it says a lot, not just about this book in particular, but all of Patrick's work, that this is stuff that he uses out in the real world for real people. And that's what really counts at the end of the day. You could spend your money on a bunch of stuff that's just, you play with it and you shoot it and you put it on a video or something. It's another thing to take this stuff and to do it for real people. And, Patrick always puts out stuff that, because it's got his name on it. He respects the art of magic, and you can hear that. And we can continue.
It's funny that you say it has my name on it because it doesn't.
Well, you know what I mean. In a roundabout way. All right. Smart guy. All right.
Oh, only marginally so. No, that's really nice of you to say. Thank you very much.
But it is true. And I think
really is nice to hear.
When it comes to the magic marketplace, I think that that's something that needs to be respected more. And when people are like you that do this, that you should have that be known, that you're not just a guy creating tricks to sell. You're a guy that performs this stuff. And then when you've got it where you want it, then you decide to release it to the community. So,
I took a long time to release some of my ideas because I want them to be as good as they could possibly be before I.
Yeah.
Because, if they're not, people are not going to be able to learn them. They get frustrated, and that's a bad marketing decision. Number one is putting out junk because, man, that's not those people don't last long. I've been putting stuff out on the magic market for over a decade, longer. Let's not think about how long it's been.
Yeah, all right.
But you see people come and go, and you see the folks who stick around, and you also see the folks who go, it's got that person's name on it, I'm going to buy it. I mean, there are people who I don't even have to necessarily know what the trick is. If they put something out, I go, I know that's good. I want to buy that, or I want to buy that idea because I know that it's a solid idea. So everything that I've put out are things that I've actually done and used at some point or another, either previously or am using currently.
Right.
Because otherwise, what's the point? I mean, there's some cool ideas. I've got a ton of things that I don't use that I've come up with, but I haven't published those.
No. Yeah.
And then other people come along and figure it out, and that's great. They figure out how to make it work.
No, there's no rush. That's the best thing. There's no rush. Do you have time for a couple more questions? Maybe two more?
Yeah, two more would be great.
Okay. One of them is something that's specific to shows, and as a performer, this is going to be good to hear your tips on this. So Alex is asking, I'd like to pull these up, so I'm going to pull this up over on YouTube. And thank you guys for all your questions today. Alex is saying, any tips on writing or scripting a show? So I know that's a big question, Patrick, and we don't
Oh
have to.
no,
We don't have
it's
a.
not. It's not at all.
No.
So
Okay.
absolutely, I've got tips for that.
All right.
And the
Cool.
answer is I write everything down.
Okay.
Now, one of the reasons I started publishing is because I write out all of my routines as if they are going to be taught to somebody eventually. By that I mean sometimes I'm using shorthand. So if somebody just went through my journals that I keep, or my Bibles as I call them, because they're the things that I live by, my magic tricks.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't necessarily be able to decipher everything, but I write it out and I do script everything out as well. And you learn a lot about the pieces that you perform by sitting down and writing out your script. Even if you have a script that's just in your head and you know it, you really benefit by writing it down because it allows you to see it as a whole, not as those individual pieces. So you can really sit down and tinker and examine and tweak this word or that word to become more concise, or maybe you find out, I don't have to say anything at this point. This point, the magic speaks for itself. Or maybe this point isn't being highlighted the way I want it to. What can I throw in? And it allows you to see that bigger picture much more easily. So I encourage you, if you are working on anything in your show, write out your show. Put it together, put it down on paper. You will learn so much from just doing that by itself. And even if you're doing other people's magic tricks and maybe even using parts of their script, still sit down and write those things out for you in a separate place, because you will learn so much about those pieces by doing so.
All right. Well
Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great insight in there for sure. I had a feeling that was going to be a little more of a like a big matzo ball, like a huge thing. But I mean, you make a lot of good points in there, and I think the key to a lot of that is, and it's not, as well as creativity goes too, which is always a very popular question, is writing stuff down because it sinks in and sticks.
Helps you learn it.
Yeah,
it helps you learn it. On top of that, I don't just write down the words I say. I write down the blocking that I'm using and the staging I'm using. Whether that's something that's close up at a table, or if it's something that's actually physically on a stage where I need to fill the space. I write all of that down because all of those points are important. More than just the words I'm using, are the gestures I'm using, or the position that I'm standing, or the way I'm turned. All of that is really important to the success of what I'm doing and performing to communicate the right way to an audience.
Wow. Yeah, those small details make the big differences, right?
And the other thing that I will say that you'll really benefit from is work with somebody else who can see it from a completely different perspective. Work with a director or a friend who will give you honest feedback on your shows and on your trick. Even if it's just one trick that you're working on, sit down with somebody who's not going to say, "Oh, that's great. I love that. That's wonderful." You want somebody who will say, "That's great. That's wonderful. But maybe this one part, or maybe if you did this instead, or maybe you should throw this idea out entirely and stop doing this trick and pick something else." That's important feedback, which we don't always get from ourselves, which is why other people are good to work with. So don't be afraid to work with a director. Important. Very, very important.
Love it. It almost sounds like that maybe you've done this before. I don't know.
Not only have I done it before, but I also work with a lot of other people in that not avenue. What word am I looking for? I facilitate a lot of from a directorial standpoint and a writing standpoint, and giving feedback to both friends and both professionally.
Cool.
I help in that regard.
That's cool. Everybody wins. I mean, you always, even when you help other people, you're still learning for yourself too. So I like that.
And everybody wins. The more magic that looks great, the more people doing great magic, the more people will love this stuff. The only thing that hurts magic is bad magic.
Well said. Very well said. That and egos, but yeah.
Which leads to magic.
Well said. Yes, yes, and yes. True that. A less specific question, and then we'll start to go, because this also tie into where we're going to go at the end here. Nizzle's asking, can we find Patrick over on Instagram? So let's kind of lead into the big question at the end, or the big thing I like to always do for people is, let's take a step back and let you have the floor for a minute. If people want to find you online, whether it's a website or socials or whatever it is that you've got going on, this is your chance to plug away. So, Patrick Redford, the floor is yours.
If you're interested in Patrick Redford, you can find Patrick Redford on pretty much all the social media platforms.
Mm-hmm.
So it's Patrick G. Redford on Instagram. It's Patrick G. Redford on Twitter. It's Patrick G. Redford on Facebook. Of course, there's a fan page on Facebook and then my main Facebook page. I don't know if there's any more room to join, but please do try. I don't refuse anybody as long as you're a real person, not a bot. Those are the ones that I usually go, you can't be a real person. No.
Mm-hmm.
On their way. But if you're a fan of George Tate, which if you're a fan of Patrick Redford, you're a fan of George Tate because we're the same person. George Tate is the real performance person that goes out there in the world and lives and breathes and does this stuff. Hi, that's me. You can find that person on thinkgeorgetate.com or Think George Tate on Twitter, Think George Tate on Instagram. Pretty much George Tate stuff, Think George Tate. Patrick Redford stuff, Patrick G. Redford. The G is important. Otherwise, I think occasionally you get a different. There's just like a sportscaster, I think, now. Yeah. It's Patrick Redford. And I was here first before that guy. So he's an imposter. I don't care if that's his real name. He's the imposter. And, of course, patrickredford.com for all news. And you can connect to my mailing list, which is down at the moment. You can't connect to my mailing list today, but tomorrow you will be able to sign up for that if you want to do that.
All right.
But any of those places are great places to contact me, shoot me a hello. You can also email me through patrickredford.com as well. And I try to get back to everybody. If I don't get back to you right away, if it's been over a week, shoot me another message because it just means it just slipped by me, and I'm sorry. I'm not ignoring you on purpose. There's just a lot of things that come from my inbox.
Okay. All right. Do you have one last question? This is very, very quick. Yeah. This guy just popped on. He says,
last question.
Yes. He says, Mark Goldstein says, this is over on YouTube, and I like this question because I don't think we actually got to it. He's saying, sorry, jumped in late. If I already answered, what portions of the book are mentalism versus card magic directed? Like, what would you say the percentage is based on mentalism, versus regular kind of card magic or stuff like that?
People are going to hate this answer. I think all card magic is mentalism.
All right, touche.
That just pissed off all the mentalists and all the card workers all at the same time.
You can't win.
No, the answer is everything has a mental flair to it. That doesn't mean it's mentalism, but it has a mental flair to it. Okay. If you go back in this interview because you're late, I did hold up the table of contents, so you can go read that. I did promise I will post that. This is for me. More for me to remind myself that I will post a table of contents up on Facebook on the Patrick Redford page, so you can get everything there. But there are pseudo memory deck routines, which I would say is more mentalism because you're displaying a mental feat where you rapidly pretend to memorize a deck of cards. That I would call mentalism. The more magic-y stuff is the gambling demonstrations, which arguably maybe isn't magic. Maybe that's just gambling demonstrations, but there's a whole section on that. There's a whole section on Pharaoh effects, which I wouldn't deem anything in the Pharaoh section as mentalism or even mental magic, because there's just some cool visual things that are happening with the Pharaoh in that. There's a really cool thing that I often forget that is in the book and forget that I have, called What's the Catch? And this will allow you, and this is, I still call this a demonstration of skill versus magic, or like an illusion, because somebody names any card and you dribble the cards, this, and you reach into the dribble and pull out their card.
Oh, nice.
That they just named. Now, you're doing it for real. You're really reaching into the spread. It's not coming from secretly from the bottom or secretly from the top. You're really reaching into the spread and pulling out the card. And it's easy to do. I know that doesn't sound easy, and I know it sounds impossible. But real quick, if you'd like to do this, I can clear some stuff on the table. We can finish on that note, just to have a cool big finish. How about that?
Yeah, all right.
Cool?
Yeah, dig it, man. Appreciate it, and thanks for the extra time. I know we're going a little over, so thank you, man.
That's quite all right. Let me angle everything down here so you can see the table. Cool. That's good enough. And look, I need another card.
Oh, right. You want me to just name anyone? Yeah.
Just name any card in the pack.
8 of clubs.
The 8 of clubs. And again, we didn't prearrange anything like that. You have no idea where the 8 of clubs is in the pack of cards, correct?
I do not. But before you do this, could you tilt the camera just a little bit down, just a little bit more?
Absolutely. How's that?
That's perfect. Thank you. That way we can see the whole table. Cool. Yep.
Now, of course, I have no idea where the 8 of clubs is.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
Sorry, I have no idea what it is, so I need to get a quick glance at the pack. I know about the location of it. So here's the idea. I'm going to dribble the cards to the table and try to reach in and snatch out the 8 of clubs in the dribble. And for the record, it is not on top. It is not anywhere near the bottom. Right? It legitimately is in the center of the pack.
All right.
We can do this. Give me a few warm-ups because this is not the easiest thing in the world. How's my acting, by the way? Is this good?
Like a true pro.
Like a true pro. And I'm also working on a rickety table where the cards are. How's that? Is that a better angle?
Yeah, that looks good. Yeah, that's cool.
There we go. You'll see everything sliding this way as I go.
Yeah.
Here we go. One card. Did I get it?
Oh, is that it? 8 of clubs? Yes.
8 of clubs.
Yes, and yes.
Right there.
Boom, shakalaka.
Really fun. It's actually really easy to do, and you'll be doing that just within a couple minutes after this.
Nice. All right. Well, you did a couple different things for us live, so thanks for doing that. That was a nice.
Oh yeah, my pleasure.
A nice bonus for us, and
make sure you go check out. By the way, the YouTube connection is also just Patrick G. Redford. There's a ton of performance videos from material from the book that you can go check out on there if your dealer hasn't posted. Because I think there's 3 clips that dealers can post, and they can choose what they want. Right. The really cool one is the temporarily out of order trick, which is a marathon trick of a bunch of different things the stack can do. And by the way, that whole section, just to reiterate, will not require you to memorize.
Nice.
Yeah. Super cool.
All right, cool. Well, Patrick, want to say thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
For throwing down on the table a couple times, and also for answering some of those extra questions that popped in at the end. Appreciate all of that, sir. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Always good to chat with you, my friend.
All right. Same here, man. All right. Well, again, guys, here is the book. This is Temporarily Out of Order, also known as the Redford Stack, and it is available now. I know some people were confused. It looks like it's out of stock or something. That does not mean that. That is not what the red label means. As you can see, it says out of order. That is available now from your favorite Magic dealer. You should run over there and pick it up. Even if it's an online store, run, get it now. Do it. Google, search Patrick Redford, Temporarily Out of Order. Do it now.
Right. Wait, that's Bill Malone.
And that's right. We always try to give credit where it is due. So
that's right.
All right, cool. Well, guys, that is it from me. Again, a very special thank you to Patrick Redford for joining me, and to all of you for joining me as well on this special Friday edition of our live shows. Also to all of our friends that have popped on along the way, had some great questions from you. I want to say thank you for all of those, and we hope that this has helped you to learn a little bit more about this amazing new book from Patrick Redford, the Temporarily Out of Order book. It is again available now, and a lot of fun stuff in there. And don't let the words memorized deck throw you off. You know, it's not something that's impossible. It's not something that's going to be too tough for you to do. And Patrick has included a ton of information in this book for you, from tricks to how to get into the stack, also from a borrowed deck, which is a new addition to the plot, which I think is a very, very big addition to this, and also some great tricks, and also the fall shuffles and cuts that are included in there. He's thought of everything, and he's put it all together in this book for you, so it's all there for you. So check it out now. Do it to it, as I like to say.
I'm so excited for people.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, have a great weekend. We are going to wrap up this week on a big bang by bringing you this live show, and we'll be back again soon to do it all over again. So keep up with us on all the socials to get all the latest notifications of when we do go live. Speaking of which, if you're watching on Facebook on your mobile device, click the follow button at the bottom. It'll actually pop up every time we go live, so you know. And if you're watching over on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to the Murphy's Magic Facebook page, YouTube channel. Getting confused. So you also get notified, YouTube friends, when we go live. If you subscribe, a notification will pop up in your email and let you know we are streaming live. Because we do a lot of these fun things with interviews and guests and giveaways and fun stuff. I did a really fun live giveaway yesterday of the Fox Targets playing cards. I'll announce the winners after this show. So that is fun stuff. And over on Instagram too, don't forget to check us out over there. That's at Murphy's Magic. We're always doing fun giveaways, deck giveaways, and fun stuff too. So that's it from me. Have an awesome weekend, guys. We'll be back again soon to do it all over again. My name is Luke Dancy, and I am out of here.